Hi Scholarly Scouts. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you find that it is informative and can give you some useful information as you try to navigate a career in clinical research. My name is April Engram. I live in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I have a bachelor's degree from the North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, in animal science, and a Master of Health Science degree with an emphasis in clinical research administration from the George Washington University. I, like most people, stumbled into clinical research because I had no idea how the drug development process worked at all when I first came out of undergrad. I actually responded to an ad to be a participant in a clinical trial, and I had never done that before either. So I participated in an asthma study. And while I was talking to my nurse coordinator, I was telling her that I was fresh out of undergrad and I needed a real job and I didn't know what I was going to do. And she suggested that I apply for a role at the medical center because they were always looking for people to work in their various labs. And so that's what I did. And I ended up getting a job in a lab where we studied the neurobiology of drug abuse. And so I did that for a couple of years, and I left that university and went to another university nearby. And I worked in another lab where we studied learning and memory and drugs of abuse and use. And I worked there for a couple of years until we got oh my goodness, the big grant has been cut. And if you were thinking about circulating your resume, now would be a good time to do it because we might have to let some people go. And so you don't have to tell me twice. I circulated my resume and ended up getting a role at another academic medical center university, working with drug and alcohol studies. So my laboratory background, knowing about drugs of abuse in the brain and neurobiology and neurodevelopment, was really helpful in helping me land this role working with human participants studying drug use and drug abuse and potential medications that can mitigate that. I had no experience in clinical research at all. They trained me from the ground up, so I was a brand new study coordinator and I learned the ins and outs there. So I went to a different university and continued to be a study coordinator before moving into the oncology space at the Cancer Center, where I was a regulatory coordinator, and I did that for a little while. And then I became a CRA. I had an opportunity to move to a CRO. And so I monitored for a few years before moving on to big pharma. And I largely worked budgets and finance in that role. And one key takeaway I have from that, because budgets and finance are definitely not my ministry, is that sometimes you do the job and you suck your teeth and you grind through it. And while I still don't love budgets and finance, it's a really integral part of the work I do today. And so having had that experience back then is actually very helpful now. So don't begrudge any experiences that you get along the way. They might turn out to be helpful later. So from that big pharma role, I worked at a small product development company. I went back to a CRO as a clinical trial manager and a project manager. I did a couple of short contract gigs and government research work before landing where I am now at the biotech. So what I have learned mostly in this industry is that you have to learn everything you can. Everything is valuable. And sometimes you just have to spend some time in the trenches. I think the one thing I'm seeing a lot when I do coaching and consulting with particularly like younger people who are coming out of school and are trying to get into the world of clinical research is they want everything right now. And I'm probably not the first person to tell you that you're gonna have to put in some sweat equity. And you might have to take a role that you don't necessarily love, but it will teach you something valuable. So yes, you want to be a project manager, but you might have to start as a study coordinator. Yes, you want to be a CRA and you want to travel, you might have to start in study startup work, right? You will get there eventually if you stay patient and stay focused. You'll meet your target goals eventually. So as you apply for different roles in clinical research, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, if you didn't get the job, it probably 99% has nothing to do with you. Your resume just didn't make it through the applicant tracking system. The job may be for somebody, but they have to post it legally. The role may have been available and then things have changed within the company and now the role is no longer available and they're not hiring anybody anymore, right? You never know. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just keep applying. It's a numbers game, right? It's like dating. You're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find prince, princess, non-binary, charming, okay? So just keep applying. Don't be discouraged. The other thing too is that, particularly in this industry, what roles are named or called can vary widely between companies. So a project manager at a pharma company may be doing very different work than a project manager at a CRO who's doing very different work as a project manager at a academic medical center. So don't get caught up on titles and looking for some kind of status in the title of the job. Look for what you want to do and what you can do and what you can bring to the role. Don't get caught up because you might be a project manager one day and you may be an associate director another day, or you might be a project coordinator or a project specialist, and the variance between all of those roles may be negligible, right? Just get the bag, right? Just get the bag. Make sure that's right, okay? Don't worry about the title. Make sure the bag is right. Certifications I find were helpful when I was in the academic space. So one, if you're working somewhere or you are volunteering or you are doing any kinds of work for anyone, if you can get them to pay for the certification, do that first. Don't spend a whole lot of money trying to get certifications that may or may not help you land the next role. Once you get the role, then you want to ask if certification is necessary and if they will reimburse you or provide certification. Like I said, I found that in the academic space that was really important, but in the industry space, it's not so much. What a certification can do for you, particularly if you're a little light on experience, a certification can let the hiring manager know that you're dedicated to the craft and you're dedicated to learning. So it may be something you need early on in your career, and then as you progress, it sort of becomes less important. If you're teetering between to do it or not do it, I would say do it, as long as you're not coming out of pocket for extreme amounts of money and you're not really like inconveniencing yourself, because it's not necessarily going to be make or break. It'll be icing on your resume cake is what a certification will do. So what's really going to be important in your job search is networking. But more important than networking, it's going to be leaving a good impression. So this industry is really, really small, okay? The block is always hot and people are circling it a lot, right? So you might meet people in one instance and you may be working with them 5 years later. Or what's more likely to happen is somebody you worked with is working with someone you used to work with or someone you know, and now you need to be a reference. Or now they're asking their new employer about you, or you're asking about them. So our industry, it's a small circle. Case in point, two things. One, there may be a job that's posted or their job that's available that's not advertised. So that's how I got the role that I have now. My job was not posted anywhere. I was on LinkedIn, ended up connecting with somebody who I had previously worked with, who was hiring on their team, and asked me what I was doing. And I said, depends on what you want to talk about. And ended up working with this person. So this person I had also worked with previously, and had also turned down working with them even before that. So again, that's how small the industry is. So within several different years, our paths ended up crossing 3 times. And so it's more important to make sure that when you meet people or you're working with people, that you're doing your best work, regardless to what it is. You're doing your best work and you're leaving the best impression, so that when your name comes up 6 months, 6 years down the line, people can say, oh yeah, I worked with her. She was so awesome. And that's really what's going to get you your next role. So the role I have now was not advertised. I did not apply for it. And I got it through a network, right? Somebody I had worked with before and had encountered before. And it takes a while to build up to get to that point. So remember that it's important to meet people, but it's really important to really leave an impression with people, a good impression. Because again, the industry is small, and believe me when I tell you that people talk all the time, which might be another reason why you didn't get that job, because maybe your attitude is bad and somebody said something about it. But that's not you guys, because you don't do that, right? You don't do that. Okay, so that's it in terms of all of the advice that I have. I wish you the best of luck as you move along in the industry. Remember to just grind it out. Keep applying, keep networking, keep meeting people, keep being good at your craft, keep doing what you do, keep learning, keep growing, keep being willing to have conversations, because that's another key I think I left out. If somebody calls you and says, hey, what are you doing? Always take the call, even if you're not looking for a new job. You're not looking for a new job, a new dog, a new cat, a new car. You're not looking for a new anything. But if somebody calls you and says, hey, what are you doing? Take the phone call. You never know where it might end up. And hopefully it'll end up somewhere successful, right? That's the goal. So thanks, guys and ladies, and have a wonderful rest of your day, afternoon, week, month, and good luck.